mortality has been the single biggest driver and the biggest decisions that I've made in my life, and it has become a more routine process for decision making for me in general, because I think it provides clarity and it provides context to most of the decisions we have, which the vast majority of them don't matter, which is helpful.
Going from, hey, I'm knocking on doors, door to door for 3 years when I was in my 20s, 29 to 31 years old, every day knocking on doors on business owners. Hey, my name's Grant Cardone, I got an idea. Learning how to sell something door to door to where I'm at today to filling the stadium up. Like that's a cool story.
If you study subjective well-being and how people perceive how they're doing in their own lives, it looks like a smiley face. So 7-year-olds think they're killing life. And then it drops dramatically between 20 and 30. And then there's still a little bit more of a dip right around 45. That's like when people are at their true, they hate life the most. and then it kind of slowly goes up until like 55, 60. And then it shoots right back up again when people see that they're going to die and that life is short and that they can make the decisions without worrying about the ramifications of other people. And some of the people they're worried about are also dead.
Right.
And so it was using that context for that biggest decision that's been duplicated many times in my life since then, because if I have a good decision-making algorithm, I try and reuse it as many times as I can.
You know, in America, the middle class is like, the biggest problem in this country, in my view, is, and the biggest mistake I've made, two biggest mistakes I've made is number one, not going big enough, and number two, when I get comfortable, getting seduced by, I got my cars paid for.
Yeah.
My house is paid for, or whatever.
Complacent.
People like me. I'm in this little, you know, this little spot. People like me. They do business with me. I can get money out of it. It's not hard anymore.
Right.
Complacent.
Yeah.
And it is the killer of dreams.
But if you just look at expanding the time horizon over a much longer period of time, if you look at it in 10,000 years or 100,000 years or a million years, right? All of a sudden, you know, and the easy way to test this is to go backwards, right? Which is, do you know your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather? Probably not.
Right.
And then if you look at it from a how much has somebody achieved standpoint, I happen to be in an interesting situation where my great-great-grandfather was in the ruling class in Iran. And he had 400 children. So he would literally, you know, like ruled and had a lot of wealth. He had a lot of wives to create 400 children, right? And I actually still can't remember his name because my dad told me one time and I can't remember it. And I've never seen any of the quote legacy that I'm sure he felt like he was leaving. And so if that was that level of success and legacy, and only 4 or 5 generations later, I don't even remember the man's name, nor do I have any piece of that legacy.
Yeah.
It seems a little bit irrelevant.
I've done 3 events, 2,200 people, 11,000 at that time. And then I walked into Marlins Stadium and I'm like, how many people have been here? It was my fantasy to be a baseball player. So part of it was like, God damn, I'm gonna be able to play I'm gonna be able to do the baseball park dream that I had. I was gonna be a catcher. So I walk in the stadium, Marlins Stadium, and I looked around, I'm like, how many people will this fit? 28,000. I said, how many people have been in here? 28,000. Who did it? Joel Osteen. I said, okay, I'll take it. And the guy's like, huh? I said, I'll take it, and I want to clear off the field. How many seats can we put on the field? He's like, 6,000. I said, good. I want the entire stadium and the field. I made the decision that quick. And I said, I want it on Super Bowl weekend. And he's like, what? I said, Super Bowl weekend. He's like, why would you do an event on Super Bowl weekend? Because I'm freaking terrified. Everybody's telling me not to do it.
Wow.
I'll take the whole place.
I think we all just try and go back to being like we were when we were children. Just because when you're a child, you're purely present, right? You're just present in the moment. Yeah. And I don't like the word happy very much. I prefer using joy because you can mourn joyfully, right? Because it's internal rather than happiness, which I feel like is more like happenstance. It's more from external. And so, what are the things that bring me joy? What are the things that I find joy in? And I think for anyone who's listening, it's a much harder question to answer, what are the things that bring me joy, than answering the question, what are the things I hate? And it's easier to correct those first. Be like, well, I hate my job and I hate my relationship and I hate the city. Okay, those are all very changeable. And a lot of times you get there by inversion. Well, if I wanted to destroy my life, I wanted to have the worst life possible, what would I do? And then taking all those things that you would do to really destroy your life and make your life miserable and then reverse them. It's a much easier way to solve the positive psychology equation, in my opinion.
And so the thing that drives me the most today, the reason we've opened Cardone Capital up to other people, it literally is the model that would have solved my mom's problems when I was 12. You know, when we laid out the format for how we pay our investors, we pay every month. Every accountant, legal, financial people told me, do not pay every month. It's too expensive. I'm like, yeah, I don't care if it's too expensive. It's the right thing to do.
So how does it work? I give you $1, you give me $1.20 back.
You give me $100,000. I'm going to pay you 6% a year, but I'm going to pay you every month. And I'm going to make you an actual co-investor with me. The middle class in America never gets a shot at good deals, ever.
Right.
And in addition to you getting paid every month and you co-invest with me, you get all the tax deductions that the wealthy people get.
Yeah, so you're saying...
And there's no middleman. And you are finally getting invested in assets that the wealthiest of the wealthiest get shots at. So it's the best property you could possibly buy.
I started my gym, and that was the first day that fitness became second in my life. So up until that point, I was fitness obsessed, and everybody I worked with was like, dude, you should quit this job and start a gym. It's all you talk about all day. And it was what I was obsessed with. Yeah. And so maybe like my go-getting was really directed towards that. And I figured this was the only thing that I did know that I liked that. And so I was like, okay, I'll do more of that. Yeah. And then when I started the gym, I realized that I was doing none of that. I was starting a business, which had nothing to do with, I mean, insofar as I was selling fitness, there was a component of it, but the vast majority of my day had nothing to do with fitness whatsoever. But I did find out that I liked business more than fitness. Yeah. And that's where I think that there's been a lot of luck in my life where, you know, I just so happen to really enjoy the thing that happens to be rewarded by the marketplace with a lot of money. You know, that is where I feel like there's a lot of luck that has lined up in my life, and it's in indirect ways like that. I just happen to love this. And so, and because of that, I will do it for a long period of time for more than most people and enjoy learning about it and talk to people in my free time and do everything I can because it's just the thing I like. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens to be rewarded monetarily.
Four things I look for in an investment.
Yeah.
Now, I've been lucky enough in 30 years, like I have taken I started with $3,000. It's worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars today. It's ridiculous. My first deal was $3,000. That $3,000 started me on a $2 billion path. So, four things have to happen for me to make an investment. Number one, I have to have cash flow. Two, there has to be leverage, meaning the paper, I trade a piece of paper, I want to leverage up to an asset. I don't trade paper for paper. I don't go sideways. Mm-hmm. I want $1 to become $3 or $4. Real estate does that. Three, I have to have tax write-offs in that investment. Stocks get knocked out. There's no tax advantages to buying a stock, a piece of paper. And the fourth thing I want is appreciation. I want a 99.99% chance that I have appreciation over the life of the investment.
All industries, if you go high enough up, and this is the rule of thumb for anyone, if you want to see where opportunity exists, look at the businesses that have been here the longest. Because they make tons of money. The only reason they would exist is because they can exist during downturns. The only way you can exist during a downturn is you make tons of profits all the time so that you can weather it. Like JP Morgan's been here for longer than anybody's been alive, right? Some of the big insurance companies. Why is insurance so profitable? Because you pay them for nothing.
Right.
Like pay hundreds of, depends on what, you pay thousands and thousands and thousands a year for something that may never happen. And they just know how to appropriately value risk. Assess risk, excuse me. And so, wonderful business, right? Insurance. And so the point is like, I've now learned to see this as like, when I see big businesses, the bigger the business, the more I realize that there's probably a very high gross margin opportunity.
You got a job you don't like, show up and be great at it. You don't need to like your job. Like my whole life turned around when I quit looking for the perfect situation and said, hey, I'm gonna make the most out of every situation. So I'm gonna show up. I'm an introvert. I'm showing up. I'm a light up. Everybody's gonna know I'm here. And I don't need to be noisy and boisterous, but I need to be productive and I need to be successful. So I can either be noisy, ha ha ha, or I can be noisy because I put points on the board. Now I happen to be like noisy and put points on the board. Like I'm gonna put points on the board and everybody's gonna know it, and I'm gonna bother you with it. Like, so however you want to do that, you want to quietly put points on the board, or you want to be noisy and put points on the board. Put points on the board.
The next goal would be billion, and that's just because like if you look at how this is actually kind of funny for anyone who's curious. The way net worth is broken up is you have high net worth, very high. So high net worth is 1 to 5 million in assets, investable assets. Very high net worth is 5 to 30 million in investable assets, and then 30 to a billion, big range, is ultra high net worth, and then above a billion is a billionaire. Those are the four net worth categories that exist, right? And so that for me, it's like we're ultra high net worth now, and so getting to the billion, I guess, is the next thing. But all the while, we realize that we're doing it for no real reason other than for the love of the game and because the mission of the company. And so, like, if you talk about brand, I told you about our values, but the mission is to document and share the best practices of building world-class companies. And so that's why we make the books, that's why we make the YouTube, that's why we make the courses, that's why education will be a core to everything we do, because that's what we're doing also that matters most to us.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that, tracking my roots, where I came from.